Today's devotion is found in the book of Esther, chapter 1. I want to begin reading at verse 10 down through verse 12. The Bible says, "On the seventh day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded the 7 chamberlains that served in the presence of Ahasuerus the king." I'm sure you noticed that I skipped over those names because I probably would have mispronounced most of them. Go to verse 11. He called on those chamberlains to bring Vashti, the queen, before the king with the crown royal, to show the people and the princes her beauty, for she was fair to look on. But the queen Vashti refused to come at the king's commandment by his chamberlains. Therefore was the king very wroth, and his anger burned in him. There's so much going on in the book of Esther that it would take several devotions just to give the background information. But let me just summarize it this way. God was working throughout the book to bring about his desired results for his people. When the situation is taking place that we read in verses 10 through 12, Esther would have no idea that it was happening. She would have no idea how it would impact her life and the life of her people. She would have been oblivious to the whole scenario. She was simply living her life as a Jewish woman under the circumstances of the Persian rule. Even those that were present during the circumstances in verses 10 through 12 would not know that God was using them and this situation to bring about his will. We need to understand that God is omniscient, and that word means that he knows everything. And this omniscience is a perfect knowledge from the beginning of everything until the end. This does not mean that God has all of mankind on strings like a puppet. Everyone in this story from Esther chose what they would do, and God knew what they would do before they did it. Foreknowledge means to know beforehand, and God has this attribute. His foreknowledge, however, does not dictate what is happening, but guides his will through it. The point I want to make here is that God did not wind the world up like a clock and just let it run on its own. Even though we may not see it, God is actively working in the situations of life. We can look back on this story of Esther and see how it all unfolds. But they lived through it at that time, and they could not see all the ins and outs that we can see. One of the great verses that helps to describe this truth is Romans 8:28. The Bible says, "And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose." King Ahasuerus made his choices. Queen Vashti made her choices. Mordecai, Haman, and Esther all made their choices. But God worked in all of this to bring about his desired result. I will admit to you that this is a deep truth and hard to grasp. But believe that God always does what is right. He has a plan, and he is implementing that plan through the lives of people. Let us seek God and his will for us as we think on these things.